Hey, we did it!
What's up?
We do the magic here. That was, if you never heard them, Juventud Grasa from Puerto Rico. Um,
Oh,
I, some of the top fucking rockers of the scene over there.
hell
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, they're sweet. It's a pleasure, Connor. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you. Thank you for your patience as well as everything, as well as my preferred intro music.
Yeah, sweet, man. Welcome to the Raw Stone, the fifth episode, where we're showcasing your existence on this planet, and, and
Nice.
and that we got connected. And I love to hear you like the aggressive rock and roll styles of Juventud Casa.
Hell yeah.
So how are you doing? Maybe tell us where you are exactly. I think you're up in the northeast, if I'm not mistaken, but you could tell us specifics and how you're living now in these uncertain times.
Yes. Well, poorly would be the answer to the second one, but the first one is so I'm in Buffalo, New York, 716 area code in case anyone's making phone calls. I'm at my parents' house because I am watching their dog while they're away. Um, yeah, other than that, so I'm in the suburbs now. I usually live more in the urbs uh, of Buffalo, New York, and I'm just chilling. You're in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn right now, Crown Heights specifically,
Mm,
and I just came from the island, visiting family myself, Puerto Rico.
nice.
And you say Buffalo? I got some friends up in Buffalo. They play in some hardcore bands.
Oh
I
yeah.
think like KGB and a couple of other bands over there that are, with some Puerto Rican guys. They're sweet.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so you're in our latest issue, Sad Vacation 04.52, which we still got copies of, blue and beige, which we're
Oh,
selling for three a pop, or 12 if you get a copy of the last full issue, Travel, Travails, and Intervals.
mm-hmm.
And I'm excited. I see you do a lot of different styles. Like what you submitted here, what we got here is of a certain kind of, I guess, poignant, like picturesque, showing what's around you. Very
Mm.
figurative and more like a naturalism. Whereas some of the other stuff I see you posting a lot on Tumblr, and maybe you could speak about what you do on Tumblr, is more experimental. I just
Right.
wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit about what you see that you like in Sad Vacation and how that relates to what you're into and the different influences you have.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Please interrupt me at any time. I like, yeah. So, man, I think I've read. I should have pulled it up here. I bet I can too. Your that Sad Vacation blog spot. But I read, I think everything except for that last full length that you just held up for everyone to see, which I hope and plan on actually getting my little hands on soon. But so the earlier stuff I read and I really enjoyed it. I read it all on one very long walk around Buffalo one day, and yeah, I kind of see, you know, I suppose it's coincidental. I'm not trying to force anything here, but kind of my the what SB Press generously published in that most recent issue. That sort of, I think you called it more of a naturalism. I see that in some of the press's history as well as the more experimental stuff. Um, I should have jotted down the authors, but I think the person who did Times New Roman, that was pretty cool and experimental. So it's
Yeah.
kind of it's interesting.
Nicholas Grenier.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, his stuff is good.
yeah. I really like that. That was super cool. Um, and yeah, I think you're right on Tumblr. It's I guess I've been experimenting with experimental. Uh, my experience, and I hope that's the end of my EXP starting words in this sentence, uh, with submitting experimental stuff is that a lot of people don't care about it, which is fine. I mean, the the folks who publish things, totally up to them. And I'm new to this whole publishing thing. I submitted zero writing before June of this year, and since then I submitted way too much to the point where I needed to pray to stop doing it. Um, but I found that a lot of places weren't really interested in experimental stuff, so I just kind of vomited it up online on my own little blog, and just seeing what felt right to me was kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah, I like. I follow you. Can you share the name of your blog if people want to find you? Because we post a video of the live later on, and people watch it.
Oh yeah, totally. Uh, well, so before, my previous username was in Spanish, which I can speak a little bit of. I could have told you that. I don't speak French, but I recently changed it to French based off of an experimental poet, Danielle. It would be English canized with Coral Bert, Collobert. I'm sure that's not the French pronunciation. Um, but I just got one of her books called If Then, and this was a little quote in the beginning. I think it translates to like something about her not being able to speak her own name anymore. But um, I wonder, can I like share it as a screenshot or spell it out for people, or how should I
I
do that?
You could probably flip the camera. You could
Yeah.
flip around and you could show your screen if you don't want to read it out loud and people want to quickly catch it that way.
Boom.
Je ne peux plus dire mon nom.
That sounds
I
great.
cannot say anymore my name.
Boom.
I think that's
Good.
what the blue. I'm a beginner French speaker myself.
Well, so
Uh,
far you're expert because I think you're right with that.
yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that, and I want to talk because yeah, I see changing styles, but all like kind of in that grain of breaking with language.
Yeah.
I, kind of deconstructing it. I think it plays on the absurd, just like
Mm.
how meaningless it really is. Yeah, it is what contains us in like these little shells of our lives. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so yeah, and I also saw that you also post a lot of translation stuff. So I was wondering
Right.
myself, because I translate I like, and we got some Villanueva stuff that's in the latest issue, which is the first time this guy's been translated into English.
This is awesome.
And I see you're really into it, so maybe you can speak about your appreciation of poetry and translation, please.
Yes, yes, of course. So, let's see here. I'm not sure where to begin, so I'll just begin. You know what? I can begin here. So I'm interested in global health, which is already an amorphous. I mean, even if you and I were both experts, it'd still be an amorphous term that gets thrown around. But yeah, whatever. Helping people around the world, transcending culture. Transcending culture is the wrong way to put it, but anyways, I'm not going to try to define that anymore. It's all good. Um, and I used to read this guy named Paul Farmer, who's a physician who started Partners in Health, and they seem to do better work than the average global health nonprofit, which tends to be white savior bullshit. So I'm not saying they're perfect, but they do an okay job. And so he quoted, I remember the first poem that I really liked in one of his books called Infections and Inequalities, which I think was published in the early 2000s, by Leonel Rugama, who's a was a Nicaraguan revolutionary poet, and that was the Bienvenidos, uh, whatever it's called. Los, I forget all these names and stuff. Um, but the Earth is a satellite of the moon is the English translation, and that was just, I don't know. I remember reading that in Spanish and English, and I really liked it. And then I was like, hey, why do I just read English poetry? I can the little Spanish I know will allow me to read some Spanish poetry. And then also, there's so many people like yourself doing translation work. I think it makes sense to, if you can read it in the original language, good on you. That's wonderful. If you can, maybe at least glance through the original language, see how it looks. I mean, they wrote it in their language for a reason. So, anyways, I don't know. It's kind of just the authenticity of their words. I want to honor who they are and all of that. So, yeah. Nowadays, I always try to find bilingual or translation text and put them up side by side, and I try to, even the little things that I'm sure it doesn't matter in the grand or Lilliputian scheme of things, but I tried to put the original language first and then the English one, so people at least have to click to the right and be like, oh, I don't know that, you know. Um, yeah, I want to expand my understanding and misunderstandings of the world from more than cis white male American English people.
No, that's awesome. I think translators are, I think, an underappreciated part of the publishing industry, and they do a great service. And SV Press loves translations and translators. Viva la traducción.
Yes, yes.
That's great. And so what? Yeah. Also, I found interesting how you pointed out like the shift. I think there's a shift in mentality, at least in the English speaking world, of how to present, work in translation. Like, oh, it used to be like English first. Sometimes the original language wasn't even there. You don't even get that. Like,
Right.
especially with prose, because it's so much, tends to have so much text. Like, if you had both languages, it was probably because it was poetry. So it was
Yeah.
easier to fit in there. But at least from my understanding, it's always been mostly English first and them to translate the original piece. Whereas now writers, translators, even like you just put yourself, you present the original first, and then but people still react weird to that. So it just kind of shows you something
Yeah.
like that truth you're not looking for that pops.
Mm. Right. Exactly.
And so from reading translated work, what's your favorite non-American stuff?
Well, I would say my favorite. So I read a lot more poetry than prose these days, I would say. But my favorite prose person is it's a cheap way out because it's pretty poetic prose. Is Eduardo Levé. He was a French photographer slash artist, and then he wrote. I think he has four translated works into English, and I'm not sure. I don't think he wrote too much more that's not been translated yet. Have you heard of this person by chance, Eduardo Levé?
No, I'm not off the top of my head now.
Yeah, yeah. That's a I so the other thing about me is that I tend to so the translated people that, well, anyone these days, these are the people I try to read, either the kind of more revolutionary people like Leonel Rugama, or people who have died by suicide. Maybe someone might perceive that as being kind of bleak, but whatever. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. So Eduardo Levey did take his life, I think, in 2004, 2006. But and the last book he wrote was Suicide, which was the first one that I read by him, and it's a second person. Yeah, second person, right? When it's addressing you.
You?
Yeah, and he's
The
or
imperative mood.
Yes, yes, yes. And he's so the author, the narrator, I guess, or him, I don't know, is talking to you, but you is not the reader. It's someone who died by suicide, whatever, in this fictional thing. So it's kind of, I mean, now that we know, I think he took his life 10 days after it was published. So it's, I guess we can assume that the you is him, but he writes brilliant stuff. And the one other thing that I would uh, plug, I guess, if you can plug someone. I don't get anything from it, but I really like his book Auto Portrait. Obviously, it's the English title, and he writes his things about his life in usually short statements, and it's a really gorgeous work. It's fun to see what resonates with you that he said about things, and I began writing sentences in my own life for that sort of stuff. So he's probably my favorite prose person.
Yeah, that's cool. So you said Andre Levy.
Yeah, it's funny because it's sometimes spelled different by the same publisher. So I don't know what that's about, but it's Edouard, and then the last name is Leve with a dialect or the accent going up.
That's sweet, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a little bit of background into your interest. You talked about uh, this is what you studied too, public health.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that was like the main thing that I studied in undergrad. Right now, I'm in medical school, sort of. I'm on a leave of absence actually, but and then I hope to kind of do either mental health things in a public health sort of way or something in global health.
So yeah, so I see a lot of like these interests with like language, like what it reflects, how it reflects our lives and the everyday. Um, I see that speaking to you in your interest, and I also see it in the poem. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind reading your poem from the issue
Yeah,
for our future viewers.
absolutely. That was actually so as I
Yeah, please speak about it too, if you don't mind. That'd be great.
um, yeah, that sounds good. So let's see here. One thing I actually I just talked about Eduardo Leve's auto portraits thing, and I think the most recent. So I've been kind of taking notes in a Word document of like if I wanted to write this exact same book, which is not at all the way things should be done, but I have a little document. And the last thing I wrote was I tend to I tend to read poetry silently rather than out loud, which is like totally uh, I wouldn't necessarily advise that to people. I think you're supposed to read it out loud, but just a personal thing for me. Um, let's see. Why don't I just go ahead and read it, and then we can chat about it if you have any comments or things like
Sounds
that.
great. Please.
So it's titled Being Human. In my room till echoes of self-care elixirs, claiming to excise depression by exercise, goad me to roads where I run, by others at least 6 feet apart, and we make space for each other, smiling, and it is good for the most part. But what happened to that man who sprung from the bus stop bench, asking to use my phone for an emergency, for whom I did not make space in my heart, whose unsmiling face haunts my virus-beleaguered ethics, alongside the woman dressed in a white and blue patient gown, whose electric wheelchair I pushed to the corner store up a sidewalk incline on which she was stuck, as I breathed with certain respiratory difficulty and uncertain respiratory droplets. In my room or on a run, it is not easy being a human being under these circumstances. Perhaps it never was.
Right. Thank you so much, Connor. And in this issue, we also have some work from Cruz Waters up in Roxbury, Massachusetts. Good friend of mine who I miss dearly. Maybe we'll get on the Raw Stone in some future episode.
Yes.
And yeah, that's such a very poignant picture here you have pointing and like the uncertainty. I see it in so many people's words
Mm,
and feelings. That like one day it's up, positive, the next day bleak, sad, depressed, hopeless, and but still hoping for a better answer.
yeah. Yeah, and it leaves us in the middle, and I don't know, bless the days, I guess, when we can get some clarity. But usually it's, I find I don't even trust my own thoughts of how to think about whether or not to engage one of these two people in the poem who these were real experiences. What to do with my own thoughts if I'm at my house trying to figure out how I feel. Like, I can't even trust myself. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for reading that, and I'm wondering if there's any other work that you would like to share. I don't know if there's visual stuff you want to show on your screen, or if there are any new words that you want to share with our audience here on the Raw Stone.
Um, well, I am wondering. This doesn't answer any of your questions you just asked. But what is the history or the reason it's named Rawstone?
The behind. Oh, so you're asking me a question about the Raw Stone, where the name come from?
Yes.
So yeah, I thought a lot about it, and it would, you know, a lot about it, and it would, you know, and what came in the thought process is partially marketing, partially symbolic, or like something catchy that can really stay in people's memory. So that's the marketing aspect, but
Right.
also that has a meaning. And I was looking into the idea of like what is the core of art and literature. Like we're a literature press, but kind of going beyond that, and at the core there's matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The individual, the experience. And I was just like, what figure could represent this essential, this essence that I want to talk about without using essence and
Yeah.
without using that word essence. And so I'm like, well, this word stone, and I there were some other words. I had some ugly titles too, that were funny that
Right.
I don't remember them right now, but I just felt like the idea of the stone, and then the idea of it being raw, SV press, the lip press with a punk attitude. So there's the idea of raw, like being real, like we're real, no or avoid try. I'm not into PC censorship, but I'm not also into promoting hateful language. So, but at the same time, I think that sometimes things need to be discussed, and so things get real.
Right.
Sometimes there's a slip of the tongue, and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so then there's that idea of raw, but then the idea of raw like meat, like the individual, like our muscles, and like
Yeah.
all those little pieces that you don't see under the skin, but that's the reality. That's what's there. Like there's this
Absolutely.
covering, this maybe even pretty covering. Rocks can be beautiful, but
Yeah.
those beautiful rocks can smash your head in. uh,
Yeah.
and then they got energy too. Where does matter, where does like our energy come from? That comes from stone, from pummeled rock at some point,
Right.
down there in the center of the earth. So yeah,
Right.
like I just felt like it was two strong symbols. The term of raw, and then the term of stone together, I think could bring in a lot of messages that represents what we would be doing here in these conversations,
Right.
about at core we got the connecting, brings us together, the context of the zine, but obviously we go off and talk about other things, which is what makes it great. This has gone into topics I did not expect us to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that question. The secret to the raw stone right there revealed.
Boom. So it reminds me. It reminds me in uh, in a poetic or literature way, not a religious way, but there's a parts in the Bible that talks about giving, taking away my heart of stone and give me a heart of flesh. And I mean that's nice. I feel like, but I suppose I should speak for myself. I will always have a heart that's half stone and half flesh. It's like I can't escape. It's always going to be, whatever metaphors you want to throw in there. Beating or the dead earth or the alive earth, and just that my body's going to die one day. It's just going to be a corpse, and it's the mess of being human. That's what's in my chest all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very poignant, very clear there. Yeah, I like that. And so, but you skipped my question, which was if you wanted to share.
That's it.
Is there anything else you want to share? Would you mind sharing any new stuff with us? A lot of people come to the Raw Stone to see the new stuff they won't catch anywhere else.
Yes, 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 yes. Um, well, let's see here. A lot of, I think my Tumblr. So this is kind of a raw stone, nothing else sort of deal. So far, you and whoever watches are the only people who know that that's my Tumblr. I don't. I mean, now the whole
Oh,
world can.
we ruined it for you. Now you got to make a new fake Tumblr.
uh, so, but that is where, and that's kind of where my, a lot of the raw stuff comes. I think I do these stupid hashtags, and occasionally you'll see a really depressing one, or like I hate poetry. I think I did that after I wrote a poem. So, so that's definitely where you can catch my unfiltered, in the sense of it's not filtered through a press that would say this is too experimental or something like that. I don't think otherwise. I wouldn't classify anything I write as filtered. So there's that, and um, something I'm looking forward to, I guess, is there's a experimental blog press called X Perry, X hyphen PERI, I think. And some of my poetry is going to be shared soon, probably in at least the next week. And
Oh, sweet. Congratulations. That's
thank you,
awesome. Shit's
thank you,
happening
thank
for
you.
you.
And that I really believe in those poems. I mean, I like to think I believe in all my poems, but at the same time, I know I've written a haiku about a robin that I I don't care about that. I care about this stuff a lot more. But one of the poems is, and this I don't know if listeners would find this interesting in terms of, or if you have anything to share in terms of art, or the message of art versus the art itself. Is there's a piece, I guess you can call it a poem, that's going to be posted at this blog soon, that is called Untitled slash Have You Thought of Suicide? And it's just a block of text that all I did was convert the words and have you thought of suicide, those 5 words, into things that you couldn't tell what it means. So there's, I used Morse code and tap code and converted it to some ACE SCI 22, some internet thing I don't even understand. And so the reason behind all that is because it's very difficult to navigate communication with suicidality with literally anyone, including mental health professionals. You don't know, if you say I'm feeling suicidal, then you don't know if there's some protocol where they can say, okay, well now we have to keep you in the hospital against your will. It's all very murky, and it sucks, but that's getting a little bit, that's beyond my point. But in terms of the literature slash art and its meaning, I had a choice to either call it Untitled and just put the poem there, or say Untitled slash Have You Thought of Suicide and put the poem there. Now the former, no one, unless someone took the time to copy and paste and decode it, which I don't think people would, no one would have any idea what it's about. But it would be more authentic, so to speak, to me, because that's the point. Is like you don't really know what people are saying when they talk about this. But then I ultimately chose to include this sort of subtitle or secondary title of explicate it so that people could at least imagine what it's about. Oh, it's about suicide or mental health, or, whatever. And so I don't know. I guess that's just commentary I had about that. But sometimes it's hard. It's a struggle to do you let your art speak for itself, even if it is silence, or do you speak on behalf of your art? I don't have a conclusion to what I'm saying right
Yeah, I don't know. That's a very interesting point. I saw, and you had a couple of other ones there. You're talking about the idea of substance versus form, and also does the message actually get through because it gets, you could say it gets translated into something else,
now.
transformed.
Right.
Uh, yeah, but it's great to hear that you got some stuff coming up. That's exciting. I look forward to checking it out. I hope you share it on the social media because it's good to keep in touch. And I'm going to take us into our section of the show where we check out some current memes
Oh
and
yeah.
unpack the memes. And I started the episode with some music from Puerto Rico. I just came back from my country, my family. They see this. I love you, Mr. Ma, Titi, my sisters, and all that. And so we're gonna unpack the Puerto Rico memes, recent ones. So we start off with this first one. You want to practice your Spanish for us there, Connor?
Cuando le gritan a Pierre Luisi.
Cuando le gritan a Pierre Luisi, right? So, but on top you got Policías de Puerto Rico,
Mm.
right? And you
Mm-hmm.
see that, and then it says the top one is Cuando le gritan a Pierre Luisi, and so for those not in the know, we're in the elections over there as well, and so all the politicians are going around with their caravans, making a bunch of noise and saying shit on over speakers. And I guess Berlisi was on his, and somebody from a car yelled some freedom of expression to him,
Mm.
and then the cops did this to him. So this is what he got for saying some shit to Perlisi.
Right.
And then these are the cops when a tourist breaks the law,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, a local expressing themselves against a politician versus when a tourist breaks the law. And I don't know if you know, that's from El Payaso Remy, or it looks like it's a famous Puerto Rican clown.
Okay.
Right? So that's our first meme, unpacking the meme. And our second one here is this one. It's from the Tinder. It uses the Tinder, Frank, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not informed, those are two tourists who got punched in the face by Puerto Ricans because they were disrespectful to them about the mask wearing shit. So the woman on the left, she went down to La Perla. La Perla is the first, one of the first ghettos, or if not the first ghetto of Puerto Rico, and it's been made famous by the video Despacito, which I think has been a crime against Puerto Rican society, because a lot of tourists think they can just go over there and do whatever the hell they want, and they can't. You can't go into the hood and do whatever you want.
Oh,
You
yeah.
get your face punched in. And
Right.
that's what happened to her. But she went on Instagram and said that she suffered racism. So you see how a white American tourist goes into a Puerto Rican low-income area, does what she wants, and gets attacked, and she thinks she's suffering racism.
Right.
Which I think it's the idea that you think you can do that, I think shows your own racism. The fact that you think you can just go there and do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
So, and then this other guy, this was on the countryside. He went to some store and he was asked to put the mask up, and he didn't. He started spitting at the coworker or the employee, and he got whooped. And they made a meme out of it, right? Puerto Ricans are very unhappy with the whole situation. A lot of, unfortunately, tourists have been bringing in, and there's been this kind of like marketing scheme. Like, even though like things aren't well in the island, they're not under control, you've had airlines selling packages and cheap tickets So it's like weird. It's like, what are you doing? Please. So
So people are right now, uh, I guess, trying to vacation and spread their disease on the island, or what?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a Puerto Rico's always been a destination for like cheap tourism. When people are like, I want to go somewhere, I don't know where to go. Like there'll be some cheap tickets to go to Puerto Rico, and that's very common. But right now we're in a situation where we can't be doing that,
Right.
and they're still doing those marketing, offers. And so people are coming, they got tickets for like less than $100, going, one way, I think. So they got a couple different airlines. So with like without taxes, like they were like read reports. I don't know how accurate, saying $11. It just blows my mind.
Right.
So, but I can believe people were just coming down cheap, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people are uninformed into like the diversity of the culture on the island,
Mm.
and they just come in with this impression that the whole island is like that reggaeton video, and they just act like it, like that's what they want, and so they come in. Like I swear to God, I saw just a crowd, like groups of drunk tourists walking Old San Juan, and like a car would be driving, and they play reggaeton and they start dancing, and if the car would stop, they'd jump on the car and start dancing on it. And it was just like, just crazy stuff. So, you know, and so people are unhappy, a lot of tension going on. So,
It's so hard to not be misanthropic. That's what I'm finding about myself. I mean, it's nice to talk to you and find the people in the punk lit zine who know realize have more self awareness. Maybe I don't know. Tough times, dude.
yeah, well, I ain't that great either. But trying to be better day by day, Key. And but I think there's a lot of positive, and I think we're in a moment in history that we've never been at before, where there's positive change in places that you never would have thought would have had it,
Mm.
and a lot of movement, and I'm scared, but I'm optimistic. Honestly, like I don't say that, I'm not BSing. Like I'm really scared all the time, but I'm also really optimistic all the time. So yeah,
Nice.
you know. Yeah, Connor, it's been great talking to you. Usually we'll close up with our little unpack the meme section, and we have a moment for shout outs. So like I want to know if you want to give out any shout outs to anybody in your life.
Shout out. This is where no, I don't. No, I don't. Not really, dude. I mean, not really, man. This poetry thing is like super. I just did it by myself. Not to. I mean, like I. No one was like, "Hey, you should submit to here." I just was bored one day. Who knows how it started? But I mean, I have a supportive family, and they I guess they've complimented my writing before. My sisters are both very artistic, so I'm
Shout
very
out to your family, to your sisters.
yeah, hell yeah, and SP Press and people who are just trying, to allow creativity and their passions to make. I'm gonna and I hate cliches, so that's why I'm gonna use one right now to make the world a better place. I mean, that's what it's all about. What else are you supposed to do besides die?
Okay, well, thanks so much for your very real words, because that's what we come to the Raw Stone for. Because
Yes.
no bullshit, but keep it positive. And we're gonna close up, and I'm gonna go back to playing my boys from Puerto Rico, Juventud Grasa. If you haven't heard them, check them out. These guys are like kings of the scene over there. Good shit, and you're welcome to hang out some more, Connor. But this is gonna be it. Hasta
That
luego.
sounds good.
Pleasure.
Where can people get their music? I see you have an LP, but are they
Yeah,
on
I
like
got the
Bandcamp or stuff?
vinyl, but you can find their stuff online. I'm sure that they got the online. Uh, wait, stupid commercial. I got the record, but the record player is in the living room, so now I'm using the YouTube. But I'm
Nice.
sorry, everybody knows I'm lying to them now. They always thought I was doing but yeah, I'm sure you can get their shit online.
Nice.
One of the members, Jose, he runs the record label Discos de Hoy. Um, you could check them out online. I'm sure on Instagram you might be able to find their stuff that
Yeah.
way. Also, maybe my boy Medio Pocillo Records. It's on Instagram too. He has a lot of fresh Latin punk shit, so you might want to check that out. And yeah, Connor, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Thanks for reading from the poem. People, if you want, hit up sadvacgs9 at Gmail, get your order. You could also get SSV004. And I hope to see you all soon in the next Raw Stone.
All right, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of this.